And I try to pick colors and I proceed to the main piece. A friend of mine told me like there's really nothing that could be achieved with graffiti here. The piece behind me is titled Bold Steps. So I'm just trying to put my own, it's an abstract journey of African fashion has come so far. The word there is Ikeakpa. Ikeakpa is a Bini word for movement. So we are it's just a movement, and we have the shoes here which shows the flow and the storm which the movement creates while working. I'm also 7. I'm an African urban artist and design consultant.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Osayua Mesale, and today, go Issy.
It's my birthday.
Hi Issy, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
We did it together on Friday, so it's another new week.
Absolutely.
And we're here again.
Again. Let's
How are
do
you?
it
How
like
was
we
your
know how to
weekend?
do it. Fine. It was fine. It was. It could have been more restful though, but it was okay.
Really, what did you do?
I was working. I was working. I had a lot of online classes, so I was, attending to my clients in it. So, but it was okay. It was okay. What can I say?
Fantastic, fantastic.
And yours? How was yours? I saw you
party.
partying
So on Saturday was
with that lovely gown.
On Saturday was my son's birthday, so
Okay.
he became a teenager officially.
Ooh.
So a friend of my friend,
Rephrase the second one.
the second one became a teenager.
Yes.
Yes, the baby of the house became a teenager. So my friend's birthday, same day as well. So she invited us for the party at Wheat Baker. It was really nice.
Ooh.
I had so much fun. I was dancing.
I saw it on Instagram.
I was dancing. Unfortunately, I'm not available to be toast, so I don't know.
Then you shouldn't have worn that lovely gown.
See, let me tell you, it was
so hot
Norma
and
that put me in
spicy.
trouble. Norma said, I asked her, I said, what's the dress code? She said, hot and sassy.
Ooh-wee.
Please, how
You
can I
nailed
define
it.
something?
Let me say it the way they say it on social media. You understood the assignment.
Yes, I understood the assignment and I delivered. They said hot and sassy. And hot and sassy was what I gave them.
Oh, it was hot.
Yeah,
It was
so
totally hot.
today we're having an interesting conversation because last week, Thursday, I think 1st of July,
Yeah.
the PIB was passed.
Absolutely.
The petroleum industry bill was passed, and you know it's very important for us to understand, especially because we're still, a petroleum, or what's it called?
An oil
Oil and gas dependent
country.
economy in Nigeria. So it's important that we have a clear picture of what this implies or what the impact will be, right, for the Nigerian economy, and
Totally.
that's what we're talking about. And here's what we found as today's quote: procrastination is like a credit card. It's a lot of fun until you get the bill. I mean, the reason I chose this quote was because, I mean, this is over 20 years.
Absolutely.
And the delay for this PIB passing, right? So we won't even understand what exactly first has gone wrong. All these years that it has not been passed. And now that it has been passed, what would it imply for us, for our economy?
Exactly.
Yeah, so as we've said earlier, the House passed the PIB after 20 years delay. Now, according to the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, it's a landmark achievement. So what does this imply to the Nigerian economy? Dr. Adeoye Adefulu is here to discuss this and talk to us about it. But first, let's take a break to see what we found in the news. All right, you're still watching Ways. The National Workaholics Day is observed on the 5th of July every year. The day reminds us to balance our work and home life. Work isn't everything. So do you come in early, skip your lunch, stay late, or know someone who does? This day is dedicated to the people who fit that description, the workaholics. A workaholic feels the need to be busy at all times, which may cause problems. They might perform tasks they are not required to do or are unnecessary for the project completion. This unnecessary task cause inefficiency where the focus should be on production. So workaholics may have trouble delegating or entrusting co-workers with tasks, and they struggle with organizational skill due to taking on too much work at one time. The solution for workaholics is to step back, regroup, and step down just a little bit.
Will they do it?
Never. Never.
I don't think so. But being a workaholic, I never thought that it was going to be that definition. I thought it was somebody who enjoyed working, basically. That's what we understood by being a workaholic here. So when they give you the assignment, you just, oh, I'm ready to do it, and they're ready to nail it. But not a situation whereby you under-deliver, you are not ready to delegate and stuff like that. I didn't know it to be like that.
I used to be one that wasn't entrusting in terms of, okay, I have this idea in my head, and I feel like if I do not do it, nobody else will be able to deliver or execute it the way I would.
Want it.
Until I started saying no.
Man is an island.
Yeah, you must always trust that people can do better.
Yes.
I mean, with even the production of Ways, I mean, our producer has been doing an amazing job, Elsie. She's been, so I mean, it's me deliberately removing myself from the equation and ensuring that she delivers on her job, and she's doing so well.
Overwhelming too, when you get to do
everything yourself. But I see her like a workaholic though. Else, you know, the let person breathe.
No, I don't think so.
No. But guess what?
She works hard and she parties harder.
She plays harder, so she balances it, and I like that about her.
Yes.
So what she would do is, by Thursday, what are we doing next week? So she sorts out the entire week.
Exactly.
Do you understand? So that she's not pressured. And I think I like that about her.
Elsie will kill us after this.
She's watching, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. But I think I like that about her. She plans, you know, so it takes off that pressure. So she's actually doing a lot of work, but you don't see it. So you would think it's easy until, she can never be overwhelmed. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think it's just being proactive, right?
Yes,
and I love that about her.
So do I.
Yeah.
And I love her vibe. I just love her. Her vibes kills me.
All right, enough of our Elsie. By the way, she was supposed to be here. All right, so what did you find for us in the news today?
Okay, the space of kidnapping is, you know, we all know what it's like. And currently, we have a situation in Zamfara State where 2 students actually were arrested for threatening to kidnap the principal in Zamfara State.
Wow.
Now, the principal, who happens to be a Reverend Sister in one of the schools, was, you know, they dropped the letter. The name of the school is Dominican College in Shais Kawa, Shais Kawa area of Gusau. And they dropped the letter in a suggestion box for them to find. Now, the thing that is annoying me about this is that we all know that we have complained about the fact that, is it okay for us to glorify banditry? Is it okay for us to glorify the fact that people who are kidnappers, we kind of
give them some
sort of validation, we support them, soft landing, there is no consequence, there's no accountability. And at the end of the day, what happens, this is the consequence, the result of it, basically. Now, this didn't only happen in Dominican College. It also happened in another school that is called Anchor. In Dominican College, we had the student who was in SS3 doing this. Now, in the other school in Anchor, which is also a federal government college, is an SS1 student that has done this. So what kind of values are the students in the North imbibing? What kind of values are they taking in on a day-to-day? Are they being recruited to, you know, source for environments where they can actually, you know, raise money and kidnap people, basically? Now, how do we tell the difference between the main bandits and those who are just doing it to, you know, cause some sort of threat or cause some sort of ruckus in the school?
That's interesting. Interesting that you're talking about school, because even tomorrow, I think our conversation is centered around the new trends that are happening within the secondary school. And just to also mention, because now you said it, it just came to my mind. On Friday, I took the story of the girl that died
in school
as a result of alleged probably rape or something in a school. What I forgot to mention, right, was the part of the school refuting. They actually said that no such thing like three staff had been sacked
from the school
for violating a student. So for sexual assault, yes, that nothing like that has happened in the school.
Reported?
So why they reported that I mean 3 staff had been sacked previously is what we also need to find out. Like I said on Friday, we'll keep putting our eyes. I am really keen on that story. We'll keep putting our eyes on that story that that I took for the school in Abuja. You know, so my story is actually very interesting. I mean, it's somehow tied to what you were saying about, you know, giving soft landing for bandits. So the Punch reported showing us saying there will be uproar if truth about Nnamdi Kanu's arrest comes out. Now, it says the Nobel laureate has warned that there will be a huge swag if truth about how the federal government had arrested the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, that's IPOB Nnamdi Kanu, if that truth comes out, that there will be an uproar. And it says that he said, it's not for me to tell the president to prepare itself because it's going to be a huge swag when the truth about how Kanu was arrested comes out. People are alleging this or that. That is one phrase, whether Nigeria has acted outside international law. And the second issue, however, has to do with Kanu's conduct outside the nation. There has been a level of hate rhetoric, which has been unfortunate from Kanu. Hate rhetoric is an issue that can only be judged by the law of any nation. Was it right to have been kidnapped? Because what is alleging now is that they kidnapped Nnamdi Kanu. Was it right to have been kidnapped? You say intercepted as much as you want, but I think Kanu was kidnapped, and that is wrong internationally and morally. The government cannot wash itself clean on what seems to be a kind of comparative energy in pursuing the the destabilized forces in the nation. And he also went ahead to talk about bandits, right? You know, why can't they use the same energy, you know, to pursue all these bandits and all the banditry and all of that they used in arresting, Nnamdi Kanu. You know, so he was also saying that the Miyetti Allah leader should have been arrested years ago, long before even the IPOB declared, you know, was declared a terrorist organization. Yeah. So, I mean, these are all stories that are unfolding in terms of security in our nation. It's something that we'll keep on following, but I'm happy that a lot of people, more people are coming out to say, because it's one thing for you to say, oh, this person was arrested, but everything, even if the person is a criminal, you must follow due process. Due process. You must ensure, yes.
You know that currently Kenya has debunked having any knowledge of working hand in hand with the government to, you know, arrest them. And even if he had jumped bail before, you know, the key thing here is that was there due process in getting him into the country. Absolutely. And still, everything is still a bit of a haze currently. And I think also because Kanu hasn't even helped himself based on the hate rhetoric, which he actually spread when he was, you know, outside the country, basically. So to an extent, it's a bittersweet information for everyone involved.
So we're just hoping, we'll keep our eyes on. I mean, there are so many stories that we're keeping our eyes on.
There is so much happening.
Honestly, Nigeria is just filled with a lot of happenings, you know.
Drama country.
Yeah. Right now. But this latest one now is the passing of the petroleum industry bill, which I am very, very happy to be learning about this evening. And we have our guests with us, but we'll do that right after the break. Please stay with us.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
There has to be a decision point. The way your baby is presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar?" And I said, "Am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?"
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken.
Of you?
Yes, but without showing my private parts. I want to put it in my front room. And they said, "You can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house." I said, "Well, it's my body and it's my front room."
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6.
So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
them. Then you
them
go home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, the House of Representatives on Thursday, 1st of July, passed the Petroleum Industry Bill. And members unanimously passed the 319 clauses of the report of the bill to make history. Now, the PIB spent about 20 years at the National Assembly, failing to be passed by previous assemblies before the legislature passed it last Thursday. By this development, the third reading of the bill will be a mere formality soon to be done by the House. Now, the Speaker commended the 74 members of the PIB committee and the entire House for a job well done. So what does this passage mean to the Nigerian economy and the livelihood of Nigerians? That's our question tonight. Please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. Mio, I don't know what it means for me. I'm a market woman. Tell me, what do you think before I bring in our guest like in a minute? Passing on this bill, how does it concern you?
So long as they don't increase fuel price, I'm fine.
That's what you're thinking about, Abby. But there's so much more.
There's so much more, actually. When I went through some of the 534 pages that was sent to us, I think it has to do a lot with community development, how the federal government actually will empower the minister to work hand in hand with the community and have some sort of authority over the petroleum industry.
Okay. Well, so for me, I think it's just to give a bit of the market forces. I mean, just like the way we have telecoms. Yeah. So where market forces will determine the prices, right? If this bill is passed, it gives a lot. So I'm just thinking, how would it play out in terms of those people that have oil wells? Would they start thinking of having their own refineries, or would they think of, continue business as usual, and some people that have molecular refineries that do small pockets of, would they become bigger players in the game? And, how would it also now impact the end product, which is the prices of the fuel? And not only that, I mean, we have so many things. There's bitumen, there are byproducts, lubricants, and all of those things. How would it translate to getting those things cheaper and making sure we can't have bitumen and have potholes? So for me, that's how I want to know the question.
I wish we can actually use our refineries, honestly.
It's not even me. It's not even so much of our existing refineries. It's just that now that this is happening, it's like below. If you have this telecoms, if you have money, you set up your own company and start to refine your own. So I want to know how it play out. And again, I'm just thinking, is it because of Dangote that they're passing this bill? Because of his refinery? That's conspiracy theory. All right, so let me bring in our guest. Dr. Adeoye Adefulu is a partner and head of Odujinri and Adefulu Energy Practice, Real Estate and Mining teams. He is also an active member of the Corporate Capital Market and Finance team. Adeoye has a broad range of experience on oil, gas, and power matters, and he is widely regarded as one of Nigeria's leading energy lawyers. Hey, serious matter. And he's joining us live in studio. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey. Let me just confess that I ambushed him into coming into the studio. Well, thank you so much for honoring our invitation.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm happy that you're here. So you break it down for us. You heard all our because we are speaking gibberish right now when it comes to PIB, But you are the oil and gas man, and you also understand the legal side of all of these things. Do we start from the legal, or let me start from what have we lost in the past 20 years that this bill has not been passed? Maybe we should start from there.
Okay. So that's an interesting question. I think it's useful to sort of trace back the history and talk about what we wanted to do, what led to this. And the process, as you said, started sort of 21 years ago when I think under President Obasanjo at the time, he was looking to reform the industry and reform the way in which the government acted within the industry. So who's responsible for what, having clarity of the roles of the government agencies within the industry, and making sure that those government agencies knew exactly what they were supposed to do, and someone was held responsible for it. That's sort of the original basis of the PIB. And so he inaugurated this committee. They spent a lot of time working, doing research, studying what was being done in other jurisdictions. This is in 2001, by the way. And then subsequently, under the Yar'Adua government, they submitted their report, and then the Yar'Adua government picked it up, turned it into a bill, and that bill was sort of sent before the National Assembly in 2008. To give context, what was a reform of government institutions then changed to sort of a holistic address of the petroleum industry. So whatever is in the petroleum industry, we will fix. The institutional issues, we will fix the regulatory issues, we will fix the tax issues. And subsequently, it then became, we've got to fix the host community issues as well. So the bill got a wider remit.
Perspective, yeah.
And what then happens, obviously, with something that is so wide, is that there are so many stakeholders that you have to address. And the different stakeholders have different interests, they have different agenda, they have different things that they want fixed. Yeah. So if issue A is not fixed, the whole bill then
has to be on pause.
And I think the last sort of, the last House, the last National Assembly, kind of recognized this and then thought, look, let's split this bill into various parts. Let's have 4, maybe 5 bills that address the different aspects of the bill, and we'll try to pass it on a sequential basis. And the National Assembly then passed what was called the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill. And the Governance Bill was the first of, I think, 4 bills that were to come. The Governance Bill dealt with institutional reform, the framework by which the government operated within the oil and gas industry. Unfortunately, President Buhari refused to assent to this for a variety of reasons. And so we had to go back to the drawing board. Now it's gone back to the drawing board. It's been an initiative led by the executive, and the National Assembly has, they've passed the bill now as a whole. The process now is for it to go through reconciliation or harmonization, where the version of the bill passed by the House and the version of the bill passed by the Senate, they're going to form a committee. That committee will sit together. They'll sit together to discuss the various versions and harmonize them. What I should say, as I understand it, is that the versions are very similar. There are maybe 1 or 2 major issues which need to be addressed. And I'm sure you're going to talk about them, the 3% and the 5% going to the host countries.
But wait, let me ask you, because you're almost like I should not be celebrating just yet, Abi? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Because in all this English you have spoken now, what I'm hearing you say to me is that don't celebrate just yet.
No, look, so here's my view.
Okay.
I believe that given the way this government is pushing the petroleum industry bill, given the way the National Assembly works very closely with the executive, my expectation, rightly or wrongly, is that this bill will be passed before the end of the month.
Okay.
That's my expectation.
Okay. Go ahead, Isi.
So if the bill is passed by the end of the month, probably, so what's the role, how will this affect NNPC?
Wow. So these are really big questions.
Yes.
So let's talk about what an NPC is. I think it's important to give context for everybody. I mean, a lot of people know the Nigerian National.
So you're a lawyer. Go ahead.
They know the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, and it is when I gave the introduction, I talked about government playing different roles within the oil and gas industry. So
that's the governing body.
So one role is it's the owner of the oil and gas resources. So by virtue of the Constitution, any resource under the ground is owned by the federal government.
Yes.
So that's one role. So the federal government owns the oil and gas resources. Another role is that this government, even if it didn't own, it makes the policy surrounding oil and gas. So what do we as a nation aspire to with regards to oil and gas? So that policy, provides the framework for that policy. In addition, it plays a regulatory role. So how should players exploit, that's an unfortunate word to use, but
that's a word.
How should players extract oil and gas resources? What should they do? What kind of equipment should they use? When should they do it? What should they do before extracting the oil and gas? What should they do after extracting the oil and gas? So it plays, I've identified the owner role, I've identified the policy role.
Regulatory as well.
It plays a regulatory role. In addition to that, it plays through the NNPC a commercial role. So the NNPC in ways is not dissimilar to any of the Totals, the ExxonMobils, the Shells, the Owandos, the Seplats. It's not different. It's just it's meant to be an oil and gas company playing within the oil and gas industry.
Fully backed by the government.
But backed by the government. However, I think what we've seen over the years is that there is a creep into perhaps the other roles identified by the government. So they might be involved in some way closely, even though on paper, in the constitution, in the statutes, they don't have this role. But they do play some policy role, and they do play some regulatory roles. And in many ways, they do not see themselves as the pair of the
independent marketers,
the other oil companies. They see themselves sort of above that. So the purpose of the petroleum industry bill, certainly initially, there are a few differences now, but the purpose of the petroleum industry bill is to make this oil and gas company, this NNPC, into a limited liability company. So what that means is it's going to be a Kama company, just like
every other company.
Your company. And that means that it will be subject to the rules of the Company and Island Matters Act. That's Kama. It will be subject to those rules, meaning it's got to give audited accounts. It's got to have there's certain
board of directors. Every rule that covers the Kama.
It will be subject to those rules. And in addition, the bill says, even this bill says, that it should operate on a commercial basis. What that means is that it should take his decisions around what to do, around the oil and gas resources that he wants to find, around the kind of monies that he wants to expend. He should take that decision on a commercial basis. So if this decision is not worth it, if it's not profitable for NNPC, he should not do it. And that's broadly the framework of the petroleum industry bill as it concerns NNPC. Now, if you dig into the detail of the bill, you will see some things deviate a little bit because, I mean, I'm sure when you ask the questions, we'll get to it, but I would say a lot of people have taken a conservative position in relation to how transformative or how much NNPC should transform. If it's meant to be a regular company operating on a level playing field, it means that it shouldn't have any advantages over
the others,
over a Shell. So if Shell and NNPC, and Shell will not be happy with me for using them as an example. So let me say Company Y,
yes,
and NNPC go in for a bid. They should be on that bid on a level playing field, and the best person
takes the job.
It shouldn't matter that NNPC is held 100% by the Nigerian company.
Okay, so I was going to say, because you've not answered my initial question.
Okay.
Right? What have we lost over these 20 years not passing that bill? I want us to just break it in layman's terms, the impact of not passing this bill, right? Is it the prices of what's it called, aviation fuel that eventually translate into high ticket costs for travels? What exactly are the cost implications for this non-passage of this bill?
Okay.
Yeah.
So Forgive me. I went on and on,
yes,
answering my own question and not answering.
No, but I love the scope you have given.
Yeah.
So, you know, because a common man is watching now, and, you know, most times things like this, they say, consign us.
Yes.
Because they don't understand the impact and how it affects your pocket at the end of the day.
Yes.
So maybe if you help us break it down.
So let's go back to, this is what happens when you say, I'm going to pass a bill, right? Everybody says, okay, let's pause, because we want to understand what is in that bill and what the impact of what is in that bill is on us, in terms of investment that we want to make, in terms of our commitment to Nigeria, because Nigeria is competing on a global landscape with other countries who have oil and gas resources.
Absolutely.
Some of them have a better potential than Nigeria. Some of them have a lower potential. But sometimes a lower potential will balance off, less uncertainty in that particular market. So we go back to when this process started. It started 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
Right? At that time, countries like Ghana had only begun sort of their journey of discovery. But this is 20 years down the line now. Ghana is very well established as an oil and gas economy within Africa. In that time, countries like Mozambique, countries like, not Angola, but Mozambique, like Uganda, like Kenya, Tanzania, some of those countries have come out of the woodwork. Some of them have reformed their oil and gas legislation. And so what happened is that the investment that we would expect to have come into the country within that period, certainly, obviously, some investment has come, but a lot of investment has been held back because we did not know what direction we were going. Investors were watching and waiting to see what direction Nigeria was going. So the investment was held back. And what does that mean for the common man? Well, what that means simply is that the government, the resources that were available to the government were much more limited. Nigeria relies significantly on the oil and gas exports, certainly for its dollars, for its foreign exchange revenue. They rely a lot. We rely a lot on that. And then when you place within the context of 2021, where we are now, certainly from the year of the pandemic, 2020, well, I mean, it is still ongoing.
It's still ongoing.
But the issue of energy transition, now everybody has heard it, and they've heard it over and over again. And what does that mean? It means that the world wants to move away from fossil
oil.
fuels.
Yeah.
They want to move away from oil. They want to move away from gas. They want to move to renewables.
Green energy.
And so it means that companies have to prioritize where they do their investment of oil and gas resources. Therefore, what may have passed very easily through through their investment portfolio a few years ago, it takes a lot more time for companies to make that decision now. So what have we lost? We've lost investments in the past. We've lost opportunities for investment in the future, I believe. But we've also put ourselves in a position where potentially the resources that we have now, we may not be able to exploit them fully before the process of energy transition comes full circle. What that means is in 20 years, in 30 years' time, some of those resources
we'll be begging people to come and take our oil now. They don't collect it.
So we have to diversify how we even use those resources. Before we were an export-led economy, meaning that most of the resources that were produced within Nigeria, it was sent abroad for export, refined abroad, used for whatever purpose. But we then have to recalibrate and say, how do we use those resources sort of within Nigeria, within Africa? We will change the dimension of our market. And that makes a little bit of a difference. And that's why some of the provisions of the bill have been crafted the way that they are, to kind of make to accommodate some of the losses that we've had over the years. Have I answered the question now?
Yes.
Small. We'll take a break. Let's drink water. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us now. If you just tuned in, we are having an amazing chat with Dr. Adeoye Adefulu on the implications of the passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill. Now, please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join this conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. Okay, so Isi wanted to ask a question before I come back to him again.
Okay, so my question goes like this. We all know that the communities in Niger Delta has, in one way or the other, clamored for. They have the right to the oil they have in their environment. So the PIB, that's the Petroleum Industry Bill, serves the interest of various communities and stakeholders. So especially the communities now. How does this affect the communities?
Thank you, Isi, for that question. Look, so again, I think it's important to always put some context behind it. And if you remember, going back to my first point, I said the federal government, under our constitution, owns the petroleum resources in the ground. Now, for quite a while now, the states, not the states themselves, but the communities have agitated that resource, frankly, belongs to them. Theirs, it should be theirs. But on the basis of our constitution, which in many ways is very similar to other constitutions across the world, in many other jurisdictions across the world, you find that it's the sovereign entity, the federal government that owns the resources. There are some exceptions. The US is a notable exception where if oil is found in your land, that oil belongs to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's to relocate.
That's a notable that's a notable exception. There are also other countries like Argentina, for example, which had only the federal government owning the resources in the ground. But sometime in the 90s, they kind of shared that. And so the federal government and the provinces had interest in it, So there are some exceptions. But the communities have agitated for a level of ownership of the resource. So that's one discussion, and I don't think that has been addressed in this bill. And it's not the job, frankly, of a bill to address what is a constitutional matter. So until the Constitution addresses that, i.e. the issue of ownership, the bill cannot address it. So the bill takes on the position of the Constitution, which is that oil is owned by the federal government. So the question now is, how do we make more resources available to the communities? And there has been a lot of effort over the years to try to do so. So I think at some point there was some, I think it was 3% or so derivation, and then it went up to 13%, and then they introduced, I think it was the UMPADEC at the time.
Yeah, I heard about
UMPADEC you heard about Umpadek. That makes me, because I very much lived within Umpadek's existence. The fact that you just heard about it, well, that ages me a little bit. But so there was Umpadek, and then that then evolved to the Niger Delta NDDC, the NDDC Commission. And so there's a little bit of, but in all this, and in addition to NDDC, there's still the Ministry of Niger Delta. So in all this, there's still a question of the community is not feeling as if they have...
Okay, you know what? You need to hold that thought quickly. We want to go on a very quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome to The Breakfast.
A breakfast where we unbundle top and big stories of the day.
Is vaccine the only way out of this pandemic?
No, definitely not.
Many Ghanaians just want a peaceful election and they are hoping there will be no rigging.
There is nothing bad in borrowing for infrastructure. The minister added that he was impressed.
Please come and see yourself what we are doing with the money we are borrowing.
It's very important. The way we brand ourselves is the way people will carry us.
It's just the driver of the two vehicles that were completely bad. This one was here screaming.
What do you recommend the government do to support this sector?
Direct intervention, that's what every government all over the world has done.
We are not a parallel security structure. A Motepo core is a complementary core.
What I will not encourage Christians to do is to carry dagger and follow anybody. No.
Join us on The Breakfast, 7 a.m., Monday to Friday.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
He suffered equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Okay, we were still talking about the NDDC, right? Yes. Sorry, before we went on the break. Yes, yes, go ahead with that.
So what I was saying is, was that the NDDC was also put in place. Obviously, there are quite a lot of issues around that now.
Yes.
And in the last sort of 1 year, corruption allegations, etc. But ultimately, and then in addition to that, there's also Ministry of Niger Delta. But ultimately, there is still a sense from the people of the community that, you know, they have not had really a say in the development of that community.
I was going to say that because there was no representation of those who were supposed to be the stakeholders in the communities during when the bill was about to be passed.
That is, I mean, so there's the agitation that, look, it's our resource, you've got us all this NDDC, etc., but it's not filtering through. Certainly on the ground, we don't have control of how resources, those resources given to us by you, how those resources have been expended.
Exactly.
We're not part of the decision making. So the purpose of the bill was to say, look, we've got all that, that's good, but we do want to have community-led involvement in deciding what the community wants for their area. So we will allocate a certain portion of resources to go to the community. There is a structure in place, but ultimately the decision as to what to spend, where to spend it, when to spend it is that of the community. But there will be some structures put in place to implement it. And that's what this bill seeks to do. It allocates a portion of, I think it is operating expenditure of an oil company within an area.
Okay.
It allocates that to the host communities.
Well, are they not already doing those, you know? Because I know that a lot of oil and gas companies already do these things within communities that they operate in.
Excellent. And that is correct. They do it, but it's not uniform.
It's like a CSR thing.
So one person may do whatever, and another person may.
So they just want to standardize it now.
So let there be a standard process, and let there be standard allocation, so that everybody is aware of what is theirs or what is coming to them, and that the structure that will feed in, that would implement this process, that structure will be sort of standardized as well.
All right, so let me take a comment from Ade. He's in the UK. He says, good evening, ladies. The PIB delayed has been a way of denying NDDC their rights and development. That's one. He says, number two, the passing of the bill doesn't guarantee implementation of good legislative laws. However, is another political game and scheming of powers towards 2023. Nigerians are wiser than this. Our politicians slash leaders must talk more work than talk show to grow the nation. They like do more work, Abi, or whatever. But you agree with him about the...
Well, let me first say, Ade, my namesake, did not say good evening to me.
Oh, sorry, Ade, you didn't say good evening to your namesake.
I'm not sure that I want to, but no. Look, here's the thing. I firmly believe that you take everything on the face of it and analyze it on the face of the document. There are certainly many things that I find difficult and challenging with this document that I think can be improved. There are a number of things, but I'm not going to focus on the political, and the political games could be there, but that's not really my responsibility. My responsibility is to look at this bill from the purpose of, can it achieve the objectives that it set out for? Given the way the world is moving, are we going to be moving Nigeria and the Nigerian energy industry in that direction? And if we are not, what are the things that need to change? So that is always kind of my focus. I don't want to focus on
I like what you said. I like your going to, focusing on the positives. So this bill, how would it impact small players in the game? Do we see more modular refineries coming up? Do we see people? Because now people just have oil wells. Trust me, they're not patriotic. They just carry somebody, dig the oil, sell it, they just collect their money. Nobody is thinking, okay, how can we build sustainability? How can we begin to do things that would impact Nigerians, right? Everybody's just thinking earning foreign, forex and all of that. The cost of petroleum is high because we do not have refineries. They take our crude oil and bring back finished products. So if this bill is passed, would this impact, You're smiling as I'm talking.
Yes, I am. I am because, you ask, it's a really good question, but in many ways I'd like to put that question to you. If you were in a situation where you had oil and gas resources and you had one channel that allows you to get foreign exchange, etc., in exchange for your oil and gas resources, and another channel that says that the prices for the products that you produce is capped, and if it may be capped below the cost of production, right? Where would you sell?
No, but that's why the bill is there now.
Yes.
Sure, the passing of the bill would ensure now that they become like telecoms, that the market forces determines the prices.
Very good. So I go back to the point. So the point is, it's not really about patriotism. You've got to create an environment that allows something to thrive.
Yeah.
So as economists always talk about giving incentives, either good incentives or negative incentives.
You oil and gas, we probably collecting incentives for a very long time.
No. I'm sorry. An incentive could be a fine.
Okay.
A fine is an incentive. It's an incentive. It says that if you do something, I'm going to punish you or if you don't do something, I'm going to punish you.
Okay.
So I'm not necessarily. I'm not talking about tax breaks. I'm not. I'm not.
People have been getting too many things.
But no, please, I'm not. And frankly, I'm not, because if I was, I would look a lot different to this. But seriously, what I am talking about is we've not created the kind of structures that allow companies to thrive in the downstream sector.
Exactly.
So why do I want to build and expend significant amounts of money in a refinery if I do not know that at the end of the day, I will be able to get my investment back? So I want to make sure that I can sell whatever I'm selling at the price that is the market price. And that's critical. So that's something that the bill is actually it's now very clear about. It does say that petroleum products will be sold at the
market forces will determine the price.
Market forces will determine the price. So that's unique. That's something interesting. That's something different. I think it would help to bring in a lot more
players,
investment into that space. We already have one big player. I'm not going to mention the name of the entity, but I think it starts with D and ends with E.
We know, Joe.
But we already have a big player coming in. That player is playing they are in an export processing zone. So they are not technically in
but if this
Nigeria.
bill is passed, trust me, he will move into the local zone, because I mean he smartly put it in that export zone because of all of these hiccups that this bill is trying to address. So I strongly believe that if this bill is passed and it's running smoothly and they have more players, he would also want to take the chunk of the market, because trust me, Nigeria has a huge market for this.
It certainly, I mean, it would make a lot of sense both to that company and to the nation that the products will come into the Nigerian market. Certainly. And I am sure that they are considering this, and they're considering the impact of this bill on their market.
Absolutely.
But the what has been advertised is that even the products market in Nigeria may not be able to accommodate all of the products that they have. So there will be some exports.
Oh, of course, definitely. Isi, you wanted to say something, your final question. But let me quickly say that Ade has said, good evening to Ade, my namesake.
Thank you.
All right, so Isi, your final question.
Okay, you've talked about the upstream, you've talked about the downstream sector, but we didn't talk about the midstream sector, which is the gas sector. So how will this affect the midstream sector?
Okay, so another thing, when we talk about energy transition and the move from fossil fuels, from oil in particular, but also in many ways from gas. But gas is seen as a much cleaner fuel.
True.
And even though in the European economies, etc., they're talking about moving away from fossil fuels.
Totally.
Period. But there's a lot of discussion now about how gas, being a cleaner fuel, should not be deprived. Economies like ours should not be deprived of utilization of gas. And so one of the objectives of this bill is to create a good domestic market for gas. And they do try to incentivize that, meaning they're allowing for lower tax and perhaps royalty rates on the production of gas. Because gas is very different from oil. So gas, with oil, you get the product out of the ground, put it in a pipeline. In some cases, you don't have to it's not going to be a long pipeline. Put it in a pipeline, put it in a storage unit, someone picks it up, they sell it. But with gas, even before you start producing gas, you need to have a market for your gas, because you need to plan, and you're planning for a 20-year horizon. And that's why gas is very different. So you need to create that market. So they've created incentives for the producers, but they also need to incentivize along the value chain, meaning that the pipeline, the storage, the processing units,
everything,
and ultimately to the final
user.
And we should also make sure that market and the power market is actually the biggest market for natural gas in Nigeria at the moment. But we should make sure that market in itself is a sustainable market, i.e. that the money that is generated in the power market is sufficient to pay the gas suppliers and ultimately sufficient to pay the producers. So we've got to fix and make sure that value chain is fixed. Do I think that this bill fixes the value chain? It does fix some elements of the value chain, but it certainly does not go through the entire value chain. And there has to be some collaboration between the petroleum ministry and the power sector.
Okay, so because we have like 2 minutes left, I was going to say to you that, you know, when you were talking about gas, it just occurred to me that there's this misconception that people think that kerosene is for the poor man. And in actual sense, kerosene is quite expensive. You know, it's almost at par with the aviation fuel. Right? One is just the higher grade and one is the lower grade. So what do you think, you know, if we really want to push this gas market, you know, like channeling it now to the people that are the kerosene consumers, instead of having them use, you know, what do you think that, how would that impact?
No, look, that's a very big issue. I know that the government is talking a lot about that now, making sure that LPG is utilized
more.
And
yes.
there are serious environmental issues actually with
kerosene.
The use of kerosene, the use of wood, which is an alternate energy source for many people as well. And again, it involves, as I said, incentivizing the whole value chain. So for the LPG market, you're talking about the cylinders, the production of the cylinders, the cost. They've removed VAT, I believe, on LPG as well, which is very good because it makes that cost slightly cheaper. So you've got to fix that distribution value chain and ensure that the resources are poured into it, and that the investors are guaranteed to make their money and a reasonable rate of return on their money, on the investments that they've made.
Absolutely. I mean, we've had a fantastic conversation.
Absolutely. I had one more question, but it's okay. We can let it go.
We don't have time for that again. Well, thank you so much. We hope to bring you back again because you see, this oil and gas matter. As long as they say our economy is dependent on oil and gas, we will continue to call you to come and help us. But thank you so much. We had an amazing time with you. All right, so thank you, EC, for doing this. That's me. Now, before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagram at PlusTvAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment. Most importantly, we're planning a huge giveaway to say thank you to you for watching and believing in the Ways brand. So do ensure you follow us on Instagram. It's at PlusTvAfrica. Like, share, and invite your friends to also watch. Now, if you miss today's quote, here it is again. Procrastination is like credit card. It's a lot of fun until you get the bill. Very simple and short. So we still, I think I still need to break down this cost. We've suffered a lot, not fixing our refineries and all of that. Exactly. I just imagine with the large deposit of bitumen that we have in Nigeria, we don't have roads. As well. We'll see you live tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.